Good morning everyone, it's Pierre speaking. It's a Friday morning, it's the 26th of August 2016. Time's about 7:15 when I make this video clip. Over the last couple of weeks I got a lot of questions regarding Earth and Sky. What can people expect from our Earth and Sky? Can they make a living from Earth and Sky? What's the pips they can take in a week? And I think it's a little bit unfair for me to answer all those questions. I've been trading Earth and Sky now for many years, so my book might look totally different from a beginner's book. So what I did is next week I'm going to invite one of my friends. I'm going to have an interview with him, and he's been trading Earth and Sky with me. You guys know him in the forum, and he posts a lot in the forum as well, and he is trading Earth and Sky, and sometimes I even learn something from him. So watch out for that one. He can give you a little bit of answers regarding the Earth and Sky, what you can expect as a newbie, what you can expect pip wise, and if you can make a living trading the Earth and Sky trading zones. In my write-up I explained to you guys two words. It's the most important words in trading for me. Areas of interest. Okay, price needs to get to certain places before it will trigger my interest, before I will look to trade it. And let's start off with the Euro Index 4-hour chart. Beginning of the week, the 4-hour told us that we need to long, the daily told us that we need to long. We closed 52 pips higher than the opening price. Now take note, on my charts this morning you will see the orange lines. Those are the orange lines. That was Tuesday when I did my write-up and when I did my post. So you will see that on all my charts this morning. So Tuesday when my write-up came out, price was in this area here. We had to flip the previous week from the bottom to the top to get a trading zone starting at 155 going down to 155. That was our area of interest where we wanted to go long. Why? We had previous support resistance there, we had the 55 EMA there, and then you will look for MACD, stochastic, that type of thing. You need to build a puzzle. Once price gets to your areas of interest before you get into the trade. Well, Murphy's Law, price fell right through my potential trading Earth and Sky trading zone where we wanted to go long, but there was no confirmation on the smaller time frames to short this pair here, guys. We fell right through it, and where was the next area? Obviously, last week's low area, which was in this area here, and if you look further down, we had a psychological of a level of 100, and we had a 200 EMA coming up. So although we broke the Earth and Sky trading zone to the downside with no confirmation, next areas of interest will be the previous week's low, and look for other things. Psychological level, 200 EMA coming up. So that was our obvious area where we expected support. MACD was low, stochastic was oversold. Now if we drop down to the 1-hour chart, we can see how price came to this area here, guys. We touched that psychological level. Stochastic was low, stochastic was rather oversold. MACD was low, and if you go to the 30-minute chart, there was your entry. We had confirmation at last week's low, and Bob was your uncle, and this trade here gave us to the highest point, about 51 pips. Now if you look at the Euro US dollar 4-hour chart, beginning of the week we said 4-hour we need to flip as we were trending up. 4-hour told us to long, daily told us to long, so we flipped from the bottom to the top. Orange line, Tuesday when my write-up came out, we had a long area between 1261 coming down to 1208. That was our area of interest. We had a 55 EMA there, we had previous support resistance there, and what did price do? Price came to our area of interest. We had a weekly pivot point there. Let's quickly have a look. Once price got to that area, what did it do on the smaller time frames? So when price was here, it was no man's land. It triggered our area of interest. We go down to the smaller time frames. You can place a trend line here. Look at that. We had a trend line break just after we came into the zone. Trend line break, confirmation to long, and if you go down to the 30-minute chart, there was the confirmation. Your stop would have been about 29 pips, and to the highest area that we touched there was about 54 pips in profit already. Euro JPY daily chart, here we said that we need to short. The 4-hour tells us to short, daily tells us to short, and I said to you guys I'll prefer to flip the daily chart. We did that previous month from the high, to the low, we had a zone starting at 114.66, going up to 116.58. For most of the week, we were camping out at this 55 at 113.56. Okay, area of interest. Look for multiple reasons. That is a 200 EMA. We've got a monthly pivot point there. The 55 is coming down. We've got previous support resistance. So that is an area of interest, guys. You need to wait for price to get to that area. Once we get to that area, drop down to the smaller time frames and look for the entry. Euro pound daily chart. Here we said that we want to long. If we flip from the previous week, from previous month, from the low to the high, we had a zone 84.85 coming down to 83.65. That was my orange line there. On Tuesday I said to you guys, we highly overbought in this pair and I'm expecting a bigger pullback. What happened? Price came down and we came into the zone. On the daily chart, we touched that 200 EMA psychological level, 54 EMA, 50% FIB, area of interest. So if we drop down to the 4 hour, we can see how price touched the 50% FIB. The 200 EMA was just underneath that. That was a psychological level. There was a weekly second pivot point. So it's an area of interest. Go to the 30-minute chart. Did we get an entry there? There's the entry. We had confirmation. Stop was about 40 pips, and to the highest point, this one made 40 pips as well. Volume and momentum is a little bit slow, guys, so we're not getting to our major profit take areas, the main areas where we wanted to take profit, but we are still getting some movements here. If you look at the pound US dollar 4-hour chart, beginning of the week I said to you guys, look at the 200 EMA psychological level, weekly pivot point, previous support resistance. So then it's an area of interest. Yes, I know you're getting sick of the word, but that's the point. You need to look out for these areas. So when price got to this level, you need to start looking for entries. If we go down to the 1 hour, we can see how price came into that area of interest, and one of the guys in the forum asked me what happened here, because he had a losing trade, and there was nothing wrong with it. Yes, on the 1 hour we had confirmation to short there, and we dropped about 55 pips. But if you go to a 30-minute chart, we can see when we had that trend line break, we had in the Asian session, we had a 12.26 or 13.27 EMA cross, and just after that a rally again. Okay, so that was an unfortunate one, guys. You will, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. The main point is most of the time it does work. This one maybe bit you if you got in there at the Asian session, but that was another entry to short. Remember, we were in an area where the buyers was maybe to short. We had multiple reasons there because we had the pivot points. Let's go back to the 4 hour. We had the 200 EMA psychological level, weekly pivot point, previous support resistance. So there's a hell of a lot happening there that makes my buyers to look for shorts. And although that trend line didn't work there, the buyers were still to short, and the short came in here again. And if you took that short, your stop would have been about 53, coming down to 65 pips on that one. If you look at the pound JPY daily chart, I said you guys that I will flip the daily. If we do that from the high to the low, we've got a zone 135.97 going up to 159.70. In the zone, areas of interest, that is a daily 55. We've got a, what's this brown line here? I think that's a weekly. Anyway, there is a 55 there. There's another 55 coming down the daily. We have a monthly pivot point. We have previous support resistance. So there is multiple reasons, and that makes it an area of interest. Now, price didn't get to our area where we want to short. Instead, we're going sideways, and by the looks of it, there might be a double bottom in place here if you look at the daily chart. If you look at the Aussie US dollar daily chart, beginning of the week, I said you guys, I flipped the daily chart. We were mixed on the 4 hour. Daily tells us too long. So if we honor that, we flip previous month from the bottom to the top. Then we've got a zone 7584 coming down to 7496. That was our area where we want to go long. Areas of interest, the 55 EMA, the 54 EMA, the 50% for previous support resistance, psychological level. That is why it's an area of interest, guys. If we drop down to the 4 hour chart, you can see on Monday we were in that area, and that one triggered from the 50% FIB. I said to you guys with my write-up, be careful, we're trading right into the 55 EMA and the weekly main pivot point. Price did touch that area and we bounced back down again. We had another opportunity to long there, and if you go to the 30-minute chart and we make it smaller, so that was Monday the entry, that was Tuesday the entry, that gave us the long. It was a bit bouncy because we had the entry, we had a pullback, but it didn't trigger the stop, and now it's going up again. And if we have a look at this last trade, then that gave us only like about 22 pips so far. Aussie JPY 4 hour. I said 4 hour we want to short, daily we want to short. We stick on a 4 hour. We flip from the high of the previous week to the low. So we had a zone 7692 going up to 7756. Now you need to look for areas of interest. Well, weekly pivot point 55 EMA, previous support resistance. Now you're getting an area of interest. Once price get to that area, what is MACD doing? Well, that's rolling over. Stochastic is overbought. Drop down to the smaller time frames. We're hitting that level there. It's a weekly pivot point. Look at the pin bar. MACD is rolling over. Stochastic is rolling over. What is the 30-minute doing? Because we're at an area of interest. It's still open. So still no confirmation to short this pair. Can you get my drift here now? US dollar JPY 4 hour chart. Beginning of the week, we said we will short. The 4 hour tells us to short, daily tells us to short. So if we flip from the top to the bottom, we had an Earth and Sky trading zone starting at 153, going up to 101. That was our area we want to short. In the area, what's happening there? Look for areas of interest. Remember, the 55 EMA, the 54 EMA, the 200 EMAs, the weekly pivot points, the monthly pivot points. That is areas of interest, because most of the time price will react at those levels. Previous support resistance too. Look at that. Price came up. We were at previous support resistance. We were in the trading zone. We were at the 50% FIB. We were outside the Bollinger Band. So what did price do? Turn around there. We had a little bit of a gap this week there as well. And if you drop down to the 30-minute chart, that was the entry there. We had confirmation. We had a nice drop of about 69, 70 pips on that one. After that move, price pulled back again. We're back again at the area of interest. It's the weekly pivot point. The 55 EMA is the previous support resistance. You can see how price is going sideways. So that is finding resistance there. But it's Friday, next week's problem. US dollar CAD 4 hour chart. This one was a bit nasty. We said that we will flip the 4 hour from the high to the low. On Monday, we broke to the other side of the Earth and Sky trading zone. But you're getting to an area of interest because that was last week's high area. Okay, so what do? When you get to the area of interest, drop to the smaller time frames and look for those entries. Okay. And if we quickly drop to the 30-minute chart and we go to that was the entry there. We had the confirmation and your stop would have been about 40, and this one dropped 65. Our price whipsawed around here. I warned you guys, if you're in a short, be careful, because this weekly pivot point, area of interest, can maybe give support, and it did. 2879, price bounced back up again. Most of the week now we're going sideways. We're camping between this level here 2898 and this level here, which is 2965 about. My thinking is that we're going to visit an area of interest next week, because there's a hell of a lot happening there. It's previous week's high areas. We have a 200 EMA coming down. We have a 55 EMA there. We've got currently a weekly pivot point there. Next week, that weekly pivot point will probably be in the same area because there was not a lot of movement this week. Psychological level. So that is an area of interest. Don't try and trade with prices in no man's land. Wait for price to get to those areas and then start looking for the reasons to take the trade on the smaller time frames. US dollar index 4 hour chart. We said 4 hour we want to short daily. It tells us to short. We flipped the 4 hour from the high to the low. This one also triggered on Monday already. Why? 50% flip. Previous support resistance. Close to a psychological level. MACD was high. And if you drop down to the smaller time frames, that was on Monday. 50% flip. Look at the candle formation at the area of interest. Every time we hit areas that's areas of interest, other traders look at the same areas, guys. We had the confirmation and then we had the drop. If we go to the 50-minute chart, that was the confirmation. Your stop would have been about 29, and this one dropped to its lowest point, 40 pips. We pull back now again, and where are we? Look at this, under the area of interest, 55 EMA, weekly pivot point, previous support resistance. US dollar SEK 4 hour chart. This one also triggered on Monday already, guys. If we flip from the high to the low, then we've got a trading zone starting in this area. We came in on Monday already. 8.399 is the 50% flip. If we look to the left of the chart, previous support resistance, and if you drop down to the smaller time frames, and we go to the 30-minute, that was the confirmation. Pop was your uncle. We had a trend line break. The 1326 EMA crossed. Stop was about 58. And if we have a look at the low, this one got very close to last week's low, which was last week's low. Let's just go to the 4 hour chart here. Look at that. That would have been your main profit take. Last week's low. We got within a couple of pips. Let's have a look here. About 5 pips of that main profit take. And this one gave us about 72 pips. Also, once again, we're hitting the area of interest again. It's a 200 EMA, the 55 EMA, and if we look to the upside here, a psychological level here too. I do apologize, I don't know who the heck is WhatsApping me here now. So there's loads happening again. Area of interest, Aussie New Zealand dollar. Look at this. We had a nice drop, so if we had to flip it, we do that from the high. We made new lows all the way, we follow it. So this will be our new Earth and Sky trading zone for today, where we want to short. However, where is price now? It's not a no man's land. We are at an area of interest. Look at that. It's a weekly pivot point, psychological level, boiling a band. MACD, what is MACD doing? You need to get your eyes in, guys. Look always for MACD divergence. It's a telltale sign that we are going to have a correction. What's happening? Price is busy turning, and we already had a 1 hour trend line break on this one. And if we go to the 30-minute chart, now my indicator is not there, but you get my drift here. We got to an area of interest, and this is the areas where you start to look for trades. Not a no man's land. If price gets into this area here, it is no man's land for me. I want to trade at the areas of interest, weekly pivot point, psychological level. So possible roadblock there, MACD divergence, stochastic oversold. If we pull back, that is an area of interest because it's a 55 EMA, psychological close level, close to it. So that gets my attention. Look to the left, previous support resistance. If we do break that next area, 542, 560, 570, we have loads happening there. So it's an area of interest. And now I'm fed up with areas of interest. I need a glass of water, and I'll speak to you guys later. Cheers.